So anyway, this is serious too, because this is off the Raising Canaan Power Show. Hint Canaan, like the Canaan land, the Promised Land. That's the nephew of Lulu right here. And notice how he's in white in front of books, because we got to learn the ways of the Lord. And I'm gonna delve into this real serious. Let's take it step by step. This is gonna be a serious video. It's been a while, and I want to make sure that the Spirit of the Lord flow through all of us. So anyway, you see how Lewis is talking. They got it where I could have recorded the scene, but I didn't. But anyway, in this specific scene, he was talking about how he wanted to hang himself with a cord. He was talking about doing self-harm. So in that way they love to do that. It's just like that song by Logic, that 1-800-suicide song. He was like, I'm taking my time. I don't want to live. I want to die. And all of that. He got Cara on there singing. And remember, I would show how she was singing through the monitor in the locker. I showed it a while back. You can look it up yourself. Logic 1-800. You will see Cara singing in the locker. Through the mirror. And you see Lulu right here is talking about that mirror because in 1 Corinthians 13:12, for now we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then shall I also be made known. That's why Lewis Carroll made Alice in Wonderland dealing with the looking glass, because they knew the Messiah was going to return with Car. Carroll, his name, his first name, his human name, Carroll for Cara. He was going to have the Williams for the will of I am that I am, the will of God, I am that I am, the will within the will. And he was going to be Lewis for the Lewis eternal. And he's the second, because the second goes into the second coming. That's why Barack Obama is Barack Obama the second, because we already know we're in a time now of the second coming. So you see, you got Lulu talking about seeing me in that mirror. It gave me the space. And I'm going to talk about that space in a minute. But anyway, you see how he's in front of the whole room, mainly Gentiles, and he's in front of the books. Because we got to learn the ways of the Lord, be a light unto the world. So you see how he's up there talking, wearing the white, showing the white robes. So he said to be outside of myself and look in, because they already know he was getting ready to return anyway. He watched himself from heaven on the earth. He's a man on earth, but he's in heaven. You see what I'm saying? So it's all connected, That's what video games and all that really come from. You know what I mean? You're controlling the controller while you're looking through the screen, and you got the controller in your hand, and you're controlling someone else from this side on this side of the screen. It's kind of like how that's what they get that from, because they got the knowledge of how heaven works. So let's talk about all of this, because this is very important that we pay attention to what these devils are trying to do to us. So, as it's written, in that day there should be an altar to the Lord in the midst of the land of Egypt, and a pillar at the border of to the Lord, and it should be for a sign and for a witness unto the Lord of hosts, which are a shadow of things to come, but the bodies of Christ. So the altar stand 5,776 inches, 5 being for the 5th day, the 7 for the 7th month, and then the 76 for the 1976 birth year. So that'd be July 5th, 1976 was the day of his return. It's very important. That's why they opened CERN on July 5th, because they already know they want a war. They do that. They still try to travel in time and war against heaven and try to prevent the birth of the Messiah. Everything's recorded in heaven as it's written. So they always trying to make an attempt to try to stop it, and kind of like, that's what the whole Mandela effect and everything like that, try to see, can they stop him in that, and so he don't exist in this reality per se. And they always fail at it. That's how it all goes down. That's why in Revelation 12, and there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars, and she being with child travailing in birth and pain to be delivered. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a red dragon, having 7 heads, 10 horns, 7 crowns upon his head, and his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. And she brought forth a man-child, who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught up into God and to his throne.